Hey Jake, welcome back. Hopefully you found these videos to be helpful. Either way, I'm enjoying doing them because I have a couple of 7th and 8th graders that I'm seeing over the summer who definitely could be practicing from all of this. So I'm having them do your packet as well. So don't feel like you're alone in having to do that, right? Okay, so today we're going to talk about page 6. Page 6, and if you recall, that's this page right here, two-step equations with integers. Two-step equations with integers. All right, the big thing that you need to know here are chunks, and I talked about this when we did combining like terms, but chunks are broken up by addition and subtraction, and these are really important when we're doing two or multi-step equations. Let's look at number 1 here. We have r over 10 plus 4 equals 5. All right, so what we have here are 3 chunks, because again, chunks are broken up by addition, subtraction, and also that equal sign. Here's our first chunk, second chunk, third chunk. Whenever you're solving for an equation, and you may want to write this at the top of your page, get the chunk with the variable, that's the letter, right, by itself. So your first step is to always get that chunk with the variable by itself. Other teachers may call this combining like terms, and that's exactly what we're doing. We need to combine this to this guy. However, we have to balance our equation, and that means whatever we do to one side of the equal sign, we have to do to the other. So in order to move this chunk over, we need to cancel it out, and we do that by doing the opposite, okay? So minus 4 here, but what we do on one side of the equal sign, we have to do over here. Now, get in this habit the way I'm writing it, like I told you before, to cancel out, to draw your line, because that keeps things nice and clean, and you get more points if things are nice and tidy, right? So we're going to bring down this chunk here, which is R10 equals 5 minus 4 gives us 1. So now we're back to those one-step equations where we do that inverse operation. The operation indicated here is division, and the inverse, or the opposite of it, is multiplication. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply this by 10. Technically it's 10 over 1, but we don't usually write the 1. But here's why that's important. Because do you see how this is in the numerator and this is the denominator? Cancel those out, they're gone. So now you really have r over 1, which we just call r. What we do to one side, and I multiplied by 10 over 1, or just 10, I'm going to do over here, which is just 10 over here. So hopefully that makes sense the way I've done that. R equals 10. Sure enough, you should be able to go back and check your work. We're going to rewrite this problem, but where there's an r, we're putting in our 10. And since we don't know, you put a little question mark here, huh? I'm just checking, making sure. 10 over 10 gives us 1 plus 4 equals 5. We get 5 equals 5. Does that statement work? Yes, it does. So we put a little check mark next to it so you can see, yes, we have done this correctly. I won't go through checking all of the equations. We don't have to check all of our answers, but think about that on a test. You should check your answer to make sure it works, because then you know you've got the right answer. All right, so go ahead and pause, and I want you to try number 2. So try number 2, and then come back if you need help on that. All right, so minus 5 from both sides, because we want to get that first step is always getting the chunk with the variable by itself. When we do that, these cancel out. We get n over 2, because I'm just bringing that garbage down, equals, so this is positive 3 and negative 5. Which team is larger? Remember, I talked about them being baseball teams. Looks like the negative team is larger, and by how many? How many more players are on that team? 2, okay? So inverse of division is multiplication. We're going to cancel those guys out. What I do to one side, I must do over here. So n equals negative 4. N equals negative 4. Good work. All right, so let's look at 3. 3p minus 2 equals negative 29. Again, we have 3 chunks here. We have 1, 2, and 3. We want to get the chunk with the variable by itself. This guy needs to be by itself, so we need to move that guy over. Move it over by doing the opposite. These guys cancel out. Let's bring down 3p equals. Now, negative 29 and 2, which team is larger? Our negative team. And by how many? 27. There are 27 more players on the negative team than the positive team. Also, what's important here is if you made a mistake, and let's say you did negative 31, right? We would have negative 31 here. 3 does not go evenly into 31, and all of these answers are probably going to be whole numbers. So if you get a fraction, you probably did something wrong, okay? So let's divide by 3, because the opposite, so right here we're multiplying, right? When we have a variable and a number right together, they're multiplying. The opposite or inverse operation of multiply is divide. So if I divide this by 3, these guys cancel out and I get that p all nice by itself. But what I do to one side, I must do to the other. Got to keep that equation nice and balanced, right? So negative divided by a positive is a negative. 27 divided by 3 is 9. 9. All right, good. So go ahead and pause and try number 4 on your own. And oh, actually, number 4 is tricky. Number 4 is tricky. Okay, do you notice our variable is negative here? That's a trick. It's your teacher trying to trick you. I'm going to show you why this works. There's a couple things we can do here. First and foremost, we still have 3 chunks here. We've got this guy, this guy, this guy, okay? What we're going to do is minus the 1 here, minus the 1 here. What I have is negative r equals, and negative 5 and negative 1, they're on the same team, and it's 6 players big now. Now, again, mathematicians are lazy. We don't like writing 1. So there's actually a 1 here, okay? Divide this by negative 1, those go away. Divide this by negative 1, we get r equals negative divided by negative is a positive, so it's going to be positive 6. So you'll notice that we went from negative r equals negative 6 to r equals 6. When that happens, that negative sign, negative r equals 7, you just flip the signs. So this becomes positive, this becomes negative, okay? If you have x equals, negative x equals negative 1, we flip our signs. This becomes positive, this becomes positive. The reason why is we're just dividing by a negative 1, but I wanted you to have that trick so that you don't have to divide by negative 1 every time. You can just come straight up here and go, oh, if negative r is negative 6, then regular r is 6, okay? Another thing to look at is when you see a negative in front of a variable, don't say negative r, negative x, negative y. Don't say any of that. Say opposite. Opposite r is negative 6. That means regular r is positive 6 because it's the opposite of r. The opposite of x is negative 1, so regular x is going to be 1. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so 5. All right, so 5, we've got k minus 10 over 2 equals negative 7. Now, right now, we only have 2 chunks. We've got this chunk here and this chunk here, okay? We have a couple options for solving this, and it depends on what you like doing. I hate fractions. I'm a math teacher. I know I should love them, but I hate them, and I like shortcuts, right? I'm lazy. I want it to be the easiest thing possible. What we can do are a couple solutions here, and I'm going to show you 2 different ways. So I'm going to draw a line so that I remember to show you both ways. First things first, we can turn anything into a fraction by putting it over 1. So you see how that's negative 7 over 1? That's one way to do it. Now, whenever you see a minus or an addition when we do this, we want to make sure to put some parentheses around it. Okay, that part's going to be important. So what I'm doing, when I know I just said I hate fractions and then I made an extra fraction, but the reason why I did this is if I have fraction equals fraction, I can cross multiply this times this. So 1 times k minus 10, and anything times 1 is itself, right? So actually that's just going to be k minus 10. K minus 10 equals this times this. So this times this equals this times this. Negative 7 times 2 is 14. Now that's a much easier problem to solve, right? We do the opposite of negative 10 is positive 10. Those cancel out, and we're left with k all by itself, which is ultimately what we wanted. But what we do to one side, we must do to the other. Okay, so we end up with 24. So that's the first method, is that cross multiplication. The other method of doing this is, so this bar right here tells us division. The inverse operation of division is multiplication. These guys now cancel out with this one. K minus 10 equals negative 14. Oh, this means I made a mistake. Go back and look. 2 times negative 7 should have been negative 14 here. Negative 14. This is why it's important you check your answers. Holy cow. Negative, and oh, by the way, if you catch a mistake that I make on one of these videos, your mom owes you chocolate. I can't remember if I told you that, but you tell her. Caitlin owes me chocolate. Negative 4 and 10. Which team is larger? Our negative team. By how many? 4. 4. So we'll go back and double check our work after this. So again, we're going to do the same thing over here, that same solution. The only difference was how we cross multiplied over here and how we just did the inverse operation over here, okay? So over here, these guys cancel out. We get k equals negative 4. Let's double check our work because now I'm second guessing everything I do. All right, so that original problem was k minus 10 over 2 equals negative 7. We said k was negative 4. So we're going to plug negative 4, and since I don't want to write below here, I'm going to just move it over here. Negative 4 minus 10, actually what I can do, instead of k, we're putting in negative 4. So negative 4 minus 10, we don't subtract, we add, and the opposite of positive 10 is negative 10. So what we have here is they're both on the same team, right? And it's the negative team, and it's 14 big over 2 equals negative 7. Is that the case? Let's put some question marks here. Negative 14 over 2 equals negative 7. Negative 7 equals 7. Yes, we did it right. That's why it's important you check your work, because I've been doing this 15 years, and you can see I still sometimes drop my negative sign. If you were here with me, I have, let me just show you. So I got a new camera, so I can kind of, gotta open it. So I have to close my blinds while I record these videos, otherwise you just see like half my face. But so, okay, this is my desk, right? It's upside down, that's my dog yelling. I'm gonna hold this upside down. This looks ridiculous. Hi, this is my desk area, but right next to my desk area, you'll see that I have a window here, and across from the window, this is where my students usually sit. I look ridiculous holding it. And so they sit across from me, right? Bonus, there's my one dog. There's the one that was just groaning because I'm being loud. Okay, so why is that important? Because that window that you saw right next to me, right here, oh, look, see, I'll turn around here. Oh, wait, hold on, there we go. There we go. All right, so the reason why that window next to me is important is because I tutor a lot of sports players, and I always tell them, if you drop your negative sign, much like I dropped mine just right now, right, on that negative 14, I have a little negative symbol that I drop out the window and I make them go fetch it. Let me just tell you, people don't like being dogs, right? Which, by the way, you have a really cute dog. Very cute dog. Anyway, nobody likes being a dog, so they only drop their negative a few times. So watch your negatives. The whole point of that was watch your negatives. Otherwise, I'm going to drop it out the window, and so if I point this way, there's a window there. That's why I'm dropping it. Got to close this again. All right, so let's talk some more problems, because I've now talked your ear off. What I would like you to do is 6 by yourself. Go ahead and pause this and attempt 6 by yourself. Either method is totally fine by me. All right, hopefully you're back. We're going to multiply this by 2, because that's the inverse of division. Got to make the sounds, otherwise it doesn't work. N minus 5 equals 10. Add 5 to both sides. These guys cancel out. We get N equals 15. N equals 15. Excellent work. All right, so now we're on to 7. 7 has negative N plus, or negative 9 plus this equal. This is really similar to number 1 that we did, okay? 3 chunks again. We got to get, that looked like 4. 3 chunks again. We've got to get the chunk with the variable by itself, which means we need to move this guy over. And in order to do that, we're going to do the opposite. Plus 9 plus 9. Draw our line, cancel this guy out, bring the garbage down. Equals, which team is larger? Our positive team, and by how many? By 2. By 2. Now we do the opposite of divide, which is multiply. These guys go here, this goes here. Now we get N equals 8. N equals 8. Okay, I think you've got the hang of this. I don't think any of these other ones should be complicated because all the variables are positive here. It was just number 4 that was kind of crazy. So I'm gonna stop it on that, and I'll go ahead and send your mom the rest of these. And we will see you for, oh, you know what? Actually, I'm going to do it all at the same time. So this was page 6. We're also going to do page 7. Page 7. So page 7, because this is really similar. These are called multi-step equations. So you've done 1 step, 2 step, now we're doing multi-step equations. The deal with multi-step, actually this will be fine. Sometimes you're going to have problems that have variables on both sides, so we'll get to that. So for number 1, all it is taking those and combining like terms here. So, which we did on page, I think 4, like this. All right, so we have 3 chunks. We need to combine our chunks that we can. Combine your like terms. This guy, right here. That's 11a, because we're adding 6 plus 5 gives us 11 equals negative 11. Now it's in a position that you know how to do, right? We know this is multiplication. The opposite of multiply, divide. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. A equals negative divided by a positive is a negative 1. Negative 1, okay? So let's see about some of these others. Let's jump down to number 5. Number 5, we've got 6r minus 1 plus 6r equals 11. Let's combine our like terms. And you always want to combine all your like terms on one side, combine all your like terms on the other before you go moving things around, okay? Makes your life a lot easier. So don't go adding 1 quite yet to both sides. What we want to do is this and this. And again, notice I'm underlining the operation that comes before it. That's because it's telling us if it's positive or negative. That's really important. So 6 and 6 is going to give us 12 r's minus 1 equals 11. Now we're in a position to be able to do this again. Add 1 to both sides because we have 3 chunks and we want to get that 1 chunk with the variable by itself. So we're going to add 1 to both sides because that cancels this out. And we get 11 plus 1, which is 12. Divide both sides by 12 because it's the opposite of multiply. Divide by 12. R equals 12 over 12 is 1. 12 over 12 is 1. Good. Okay, now so I think you should be able to do the rest of those. I'll send your mom the answers so that you can double check your work. But number 11, again, there are 2 ways of doing these, and it says, the notes there say distribute first, so we're going to do that. 18 equals 3x minus 6. My suggestion is always move your equal sign to the other side, right? That's just going to make it a whole lot easier. So we're going to do that. Equals 18. Just move it. You're allowed to do that. Totally allowed. All right, so this says distribute first. We want to use that rainbow property in order to distribute to get rid of those parentheses, okay? We can't do anything in those parentheses because we cannot combine those. Those are not like terms. So we're going to distribute this guy to here and distribute this guy to here. 3 times 3x is going to give us 9x minus 3 times negative 6 is negative. That's why I put the minus there. Sometimes I do things absentmindedly and forget. 18 equals 18. Okay, now we have 3 chunks. We want to get the chunk with the variable by itself, which means we need to move this guy over. So we're going to do the opposite, which is plus 18. Good. Here we cancel those out. 9x equals 18. 8 and 8 is 6. Carry the 1. We get 36. Okay, we're multiplying here, and the opposite of multiply is divide. Cancel those out. But what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. X equals 4. Okay, so that's the first method for doing those, all right? Now, your teacher said distribute first. All right, so the second method is we have 3x minus 6 equals 18. Now, if we have something on the outside of the parentheses, we're doing 3 times all of that garbage, right? The opposite of times is divide. And if you take a look here, you can go like this and divide both sides because that cancels out. I'm left with 3x minus 6 equals 6. Now, your teacher said to distribute first, so you technically should do it like this. However, as you start to get going in your math career, this becomes a lot easier because then you're not dealing with such large numbers, and multiplying in your head is a pain, so you want to make sure that you can do that. We'll get the same answer here by adding 6 and adding 6. These guys cancel out. We get 3x equals 12. Divide both sides by 3. X equals 4, just like we got over here, okay? Both are totally legit methods. Now, with that said, do you see how this says 3x minus 6 is 18? I'm gonna rewrite that over here. 3x minus 6 equals 18. You cannot do this. Divide by 3, divide by 3, okay? You can't do that. And I'm taking away from that just this, I'm using this part of the problem. I'm not using the whole problem though, just to make that clear. You can't do that because you'll have a negative 6 here. If you wanted to divide, you have to make sure to divide all of your chunks, okay? So that you could do. X minus 2 equals 6, right? Plus 2, we would get x equals 6, 7, 8. 8, right? Remember, it's not the same problem. I'm only using this portion of the problem right there. But I wanted to make note that you can't do that. For example, another example of why you can't do that would be like this. If you have 3x plus 4, oh no, let's not do 4, let's do 12. 3x plus 12 over 3. You cannot do this and cancel those out, okay? It has to be on the outside of parentheses, all right? So because this addition is here, we can't do that. Technically what you want to do is that reverse distribution process. So when we have 3x plus 12 over 3, what we want to do is take out a 3. Do you see how both of those have 3 in common? It's reverse distribution, right? Because if I multiply 3 times x, I'll get 3x. If I multiply 3 times 4, I'll get 12. Do you see how I've done that? Divide this by 3. Now you're in a position to be able to cancel those out. And we would have x plus 4 is left. But if you did it the incorrect way, do you see how you would have x plus 12? Okay, so anyway, when solving equations, you gotta do, if you do something, you gotta do it to all the chunks, okay? So don't do that. Now, so for number 12, it's 30, this is 12. 30 equals negative 5, 6n plus 6. Since the instructions say to distribute, go ahead and pause this, use that distribution method and see if you can solve it. All right, first things first, I don't like these. We're gonna move it over here. Just make life easier. We're gonna use that rainbow property, distribute. We get negative 30n. Now, don't just bring down your plus sign here because this is negative 5 times positive 6 is negative 30. Negative 30, be careful on those signs. Good, now we have 3 chunks, right? We've got this chunk, this chunk, this chunk. We need to move this chunk without the variable over to this side. So to do that, we do this. We get negative 30n equals 60. We are multiplying here, and the opposite of multiply is to divide. So this cancels out this, and we get n equals positive divided by a negative is a negative. Lob off your zeros. Man, I'm lazy. If I have zeros on the ends of my fractions, you can lob them right off, okay? Only works for zeros, don't do 5s, 7s, whatever. So like if you had 550 over 111, 110, you can just lob those zeros off right there, okay? If you had 720 over 30, you can just lob those zeros off and you have 72 divided by 3, which is a lot easier to manage than 720. So just basically you're dividing both the top and bottom by 10, just lob those zeros off, right? So 6 divided by negative 3 gives us our negative 2 would be our answer there. All right, so hopefully that helps. I will pause the video now or stop the video now so that you have some time to do those, and then we will come back and talk about 8. All right? Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions, okay? I lost my mouse. Oh, wait. Look, I can make a big screen. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions, okay? All right.